Stephen Covey called this building the emotional bank account, so that when hard moments come, there is trust in the account to draw from. I was scared. Scared the program wouldn't be good enough. Scared the version in my head was better than anything I could actually build. So, like everyone else, I planned, while 0 young leaders were being served. For 2 years, I had a leadership program ready to launch. I had notes, I had pillars, I had all the principles, everything. I never launched it, not because I wasn't ready, but because I was waiting to be ready. Then I read Adam Grant's Hidden Potential, and one line shifted my perspective. The smartest people often stay stuck because they are addicted to feeling prepared. So I tried his principles for 6 months. Here is what it cost me, what I built, and the first shift that will change how you lead, learn, and launch. Most growth videos tell you talent wins. Adam Grant's research says the opposite. Talent opens the door. Character carries you through it. And what is that character skill that matters most? The willingness to be uncomfortably imperfect. On purpose. Grant calls it the difference between 2 kinds of leaders. The paralyzed perfectionist, who waits, polishes, protects the ego, stays stuck. The proactive imperfectionist, they move, shape, learn in public. And for 14 plus years in consulting and data science, I was that first one. And I didn't know it because perfectionism looks a lot like discipline from the outside. That one sentence rewired how I see my own work. Let me show you what this looks like for me. For 2 years, I had been building something called the Integrated Leader, a youth leadership program. I wanted it to be perfect. So I read and reread and rebuilt the pillars, then rebuilt them again. I told myself I was being thorough. I was being a good steward. I was respecting the work. But the truth is, I was scared. Scared the program wouldn't be good enough. Scared people will see the gaps. Scared the version in my head was better than anything I could actually build. So, like everyone else, I planned for 24 months, while 0 young leaders were being served. Then, 6 months ago, I just launched it. Imperfect, rough edges, not the version in my head. And the feedback, it was transformational. It has been transformational. I saw real young leaders growing and changing. 2 years of planning helped no one. The imperfect launch helped everyone. And here is what I realized. The delay was never a skills problem. It was an identity problem. I was leading from the identity of the one who has to get it right, not the one who shows up and serves. If you ever felt that gap between who you say you are and how you actually lead, I built something for you. It is free. It is called the Leader Identity Audit. The link is in the description. It will take you 10 minutes or less, and it will show you where your identity is silently copying your leadership. Now, let us look at the 4 shifts. Shift number 1, the mistake budget. Grant's first big idea is this. You set a quota for failure. Most of us treat mistakes like accidents we apologize for. He treats them like data we budget for. Here is how I applied it. Every week for 6 months, I set a target. Published 3 things before I felt ready. It could be a video, a talk, a coaching framework. It didn't matter what, just the 3 reps with the perfectionism dial turned down. And the first month, gosh, that was painful. I cringed at almost everything. But something shifted the second month. I noticed the work was actually getting better. Not despite the imperfection, but because of it. Now I can tell you for free. Real feedback beats imagined feedback every single time. Grant put it this way, and it certainly got my attention. The mark of higher learning isn't accuracy, it is growth. If you are waiting until you can do it perfectly, you are not preparing. You are hiding. A mistake budget pulls you out of the hiding place. I encourage you to try this. Pick one thing this week you'd normally polish for a month. Give yourself 72 hours and just ship it. That is a mistake budget in action. Shift number 2, lean into discomfort. This one was enlightening. Grant's research shows that growth doesn't happen when you feel confident. Growth happens when you are operating slightly outside of your comfort zone. And it has to be consistently. That's the key word, consistently. Most leaders avoid discomfort because they read it as a warning sign. They think something is wrong and take the easy way out, the backup. But discomfort isn't a warning sign. It is the friction of growth. It is the feeling of your capacity stretching in real time. For me, this meant having harder conversations faster, making decisions before I had every data point, speaking up in rooms where I used to stay quiet. Here is what most people miss. Comfort and progress are usually on opposite sides of the same door. If everything you are doing feels familiar, you are not growing, you are maintaining. Now, your turn. Name one thing in the last 30 days that genuinely stretched you. If you can't, that is the data. Shift number 3, scaffolding and community. This is the one most leaders resist. Scaffolding is the idea that hidden potential grows faster in community than in isolation. We love the self-made myth, the lone genius, the grind. But Grant's research is clear. The people who grow faster are the people who build the best support structure around them. And sometimes scaffolding means knowing when to step away from one to protect another. 6 months ago, I was part of a community group I genuinely loved. I was contributing, learning, building real relationships. But my plate was full. I was burning out. And every meeting was costing me more than it was giving. I knew I needed to step back. But I kept showing up anyway. Not for them. If I'm honest, it was for me. Because I didn't want to feel like I was letting people down. I stayed in something too long because living felt like failing. When I finally had the conversation I had been avoiding for months, it took less than 10 minutes. And the lead already knew. He was gracious. He understood the season I was in. Here is the lesson. Scaffolding isn't just about who you let in. It is about being honest enough with the people in your scaffold to say, I need to adjust. That honesty is what keeps community real. Last but not least, shift number 4, playful practice. This is the one that surprised me the most. Grant argues that the people who improve the longest are the people who learn to enjoy the process, not just the wins, but the reps as well. Most high performers treat growth like punishment. Grant says the opposite. He advised adding play and some lightness because intrinsic motivation is the only fuel that lasts a decade. Think about Richard Branson. He has built over 400 companies across airline, music, space travel, running one of the most demanding portfolios on earth. And his leadership signature isn't great. It's fun. He famously says, if it is not fun, it is not worth doing. That is not a slogan. That is a strategy. Play is how he has sustained 50 plus years of building without burning out. For me, this looked simple. I started timing my writing like a sprint. I turned coaching reps into a game. I stopped treating every effort like a final exam. The shift was small, but the compounding effect was huge. Here is what fascinated me as I sat with these ideas for 6 months. They mirror the leadership character of someone like Billy Graham. Graham didn't dominate his era because he had a perfect strategy. He led for decades because he kept adapting. Be it on radio, television, satellite, stadiums across cultures he didn't grow up in. He was constantly operating in discomfort, constantly imperfect, constantly learning in public. And the principle behind it was simple. He prioritized mission over ego. That is what proactive imperfectionism really is at the leadership level. After 6 months, the biggest change wasn't productivity. It wasn't output. It wasn't even results. It was courage. I stopped seeing discomfort as evidence I was failing. I started seeing it as evidence I was growing. I launched the program I'd been hiding for 2 years. I had a conversation I'd been avoiding for months. I started shipping work I had polished for weeks. None of it was perfect. All of it moved me forward. So, here is your challenge this week. Pick one thing you've been waiting to feel ready for. A conversation, a launch, a decision, a boundary. Set a 72-hour mistake budget. Take the leap imperfectly. Because hidden potential is never discovered in comfort. It is discovered in the willingness to move before you feel qualified. Most leaders don't fail from lack of effort. They fail from the wrong habit. And under pressure, that gets exposed fast. Today, I'm pulling 4 principles from Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People through real stories of leaders tested in critical moments. If you lead a team, this will challenge how you think and possibly what you've been getting wrong. Key number 1, seek first to understand. When Billy Graham arrived in London in 1954 for his first major crusade, the British press was cold, skeptical, and columnist named William Connor, named Cassandra, was openly hostile. Cassandra challenged Graham to meet at a pub called the Baptist Head. Most leaders will have declined or come in defensive. Graham showed up, and if you know or you have read about Graham, he was quite a listener. So he did not argue nor preached. He asked questions and genuinely tried to understand the frustrating behind the cynicism. Cassandra walked away changed, and you guessed it right. He became a public supporter. The London press shifted. Headlines went from attacks to "You are welcome back anytime." That is what Covey meant. Seek first to understand before you try to be understood. Most leaders do the reverse. Key number 2, embrace collaboration to achieve more. Robben Island, South Africa, maximum security prison. Different political factions sharing space, often with deep distrust between them. Nelson Mandela didn't wait for the right condition to lead. He organized a sports program, not for recreation, but for unity. He understood that if you can get people to collaborate on a field, you can get them to collaborate at the table. He was planting the seed of the collective negotiation that will eventually dismantle apartheid. He said it directly. If we embrace each other's differences in working styles, we learn quite a bit from each other. You see, collaboration isn't just a nice idea. It is a leadership strategy. Covey called it synergy, the principle that the whole becomes greater than the sum of its parts, but only if the leader builds that environment intentionally. If you truly want to take your team to the next level toward a common goal, collaboration is key. As we talk about this habit, seek to understand, build collaboration. I want you to ask yourself, are these actually reflected in how I lead day to day? Because most leaders have blind spots. They can see without a mirror. That is why I built the Leader Identity Audit. It is free. It takes less than 10 minutes, and it gives you a clear picture of where your leadership identity is strong and where the blind spots are hiding. Grab it using the link in the description below. Now back to the habit. Habit or key number 3, pursue win-win solution. This is key. Mahatma Gandhi led India to independence in 1947 through nonviolent resistance and civil disobedience campaign. In 1931, he and Lord Irwin, Viceroy of India, sat across from each other. They had 8 meetings, 24 hours of negotiation. The result became known as the Gandhi-Irwin Pact. For the first time in history, the British Empire negotiated with an Indian leader as an equal. And here is what made it work. Gandhi didn't come into the win at the other side's expense. He came to find equilibrium. The British got the suspension of the civil disobedience. India got over 90,000 political prisoners released, confiscated land returned, and the right to produce salt. That is the win-win mindset Covey describes. It is not weakness. It is the highest form of negotiation, and it requires what Covey called maturity, the balance between courage and consideration. Most leaders bring either too much courage or too much consideration, rarely both. Gandhi exemplified both. I think we should strive toward that equilibrium if we desire high-performing teams that revolutionize a company and a people. Last but not least, key number 4 or habit number 4, lead with empathy. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. didn't just lead a movement, he sustained one through violence, arrests, division, and exhaustion. That doesn't happen through strategy alone. I recently finished reading his autobiography, and his leadership shows a consistent pattern. His sense of empathy, which was quite remarkable. King interprets conflict, even with his opponent, through a moral and human lens. He doesn't strip people of dignity, even when confronting systems of injustice. He saw the human cost on all sides. Inside his own team, when tensions rose, he didn't lecture. He used humor. He created development opportunities. He acknowledged the sacrifice of his followers openly and repeatedly. Stephen Covey called this building the emotional bank account, making consistent deposit in the people you lead so that when hard moments come, there is trust in the account to draw from. King's followers stayed, not because of his vision alone, because they felt seen, valued, and known by him personally. That is identity level leadership. It is not what you do, it is who you are to the people you lead. I am Adam. Build the identity and lead with it. God bless.